The sun was low in the sky when Jack entered the alien forest. He was a human explorer, walking alone on a strange planet filled with purple trees, glowing flowers, and soft buzzing sounds. His boots made light prints in the silver grass as he moved carefully, always alert. He had been traveling for days with little food and no clear direction. His only goal was to find water and shelter before nightfall. Jack had no idea that something nor someone was watching him. He wiped sweat from his face and kept moving, his eyes scanning for danger. Then it happened. A sound cut through the air, sharp. Painful scream. It was close, not an animal sound. Not a machine, it was a voice full of fear and pain. Without thinking, Jack ran, his heart pounded. His legs pushed forward through thick bushes and strange glowing vines. The scream came again. Weaker this time, he followed it, sliding down a hill, branches scratching his arms. Then he saw her. A young alien girl lay near the edge of a broken cliff. Her skin was pale blue with glowing patterns, but now those lights were fading. Her body was twisted like she had fallen from high above. Blood ran down her side, and her breathing was weak, almost gone. Jack froze for a second, shocked. He had never seen an alien like her before. She looked fragile, almost like a dream, but she was dying. He rushed to her side, dropped his bag, and knelt down. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said. No answer. She wasn't breathing. Jack's training kicked in. He tilted her head back, checked her pulse, barely there. He started CPR, pressing on her chest, counting under his breath. Then he breathed into her mouth. Again and again, minutes passed. Finally, the girl coughed. Her body jerked slightly. Her eyes fluttered open, soft silver eyes that looked confused and scared. Jack gave a shaky laugh. "You're okay, stay with me," he said. He pulled off his shirt, tore it into strips, and wrapped her wound. He gave her his last bit of water. The girl stared at him like she couldn't believe what was happening. She whispered something, a strange word he didn't understand. He just nodded. "You're safe now." But he was wrong. Suddenly, the ground shook. Jack looked up. Figures moved between the trees, tall, strong aliens with glowing armor and sharp weapons. They were fast, surrounding him in seconds. One pointed a weapon at Jack's chest. The others ran to the girl, shouting in their strange language. Jack raised his hands, where she was hurt. "I helped her. They didn't understand. Dor didn't care." They pulled him away from her, tied his hands, and threw him to the ground. One of them shouted, "Toward the trees." And a moment later, he appeared, the alien leader, taller than the rest, with dark glowing skin and eyes that burned like fire. He looked down at Jack with cold silence. Then he looked at the girl, who tried to sit up, weak and shaking. "Who did this to you?" the leader asked in their language. The girl looked at Jack, then back at her father. She whispered, "He saved me." Gasps ran through the crowd. The leader stared at Jack again, this time not with anger, but with confusion. "No human would risk their life for one of us," he said. But Jack had done just that. The leader paused. His eyes locked on Jack's. Finally, he spoke to his guards. "Take him," Jack tried to speak. "I didn't hurt. I helped, please." But they didn't listen. He was dragged away, the girl reaching out weakly. Her eyes met his one last time before he disappeared into the forest. Surrounded by armed guards, Jack didn't know where they were taking him. He didn't know if they would kill him, lock him up, or leave him in the wild. All he knew was he had saved her life, and now everything had changed. Jack's hands were tied behind his back with strange ropes that felt like they were alive. The alien guards didn't speak to him. They marched fast, their sharp spears close to his skin. The glowing jungle trees swayed above, casting long shadows. Jack's feet stumbled, but they didn't slow down. He had just saved a girl's life, and now he was a prisoner. They passed through thick vines and glowing roots until they reached a hidden valley. There, built into the rocks and trees, was the alien tribe's village. Huts made of crystal and bone rose around him, with fires burning blue smoke. Hundreds of aliens gathered, whispering and pointing. Jack felt all eyes on him, angry eyes. Scared eyes. To them, he was not a hero. He was a threat. Suddenly, loud horns sounded. The guards stopped, pushing Jack to his knees. Then the alien leader stepped forward. His name was Shirkai, a war chief feared across the galaxy. He looked down at Jack, his eyes glowing like twin suns. "This human touched my daughter," he said to the crowd. Gasps echoed, weapons raised. Jack shook his head. "I saved her," he said. She was dying, but they didn't understand. Or didn't believe. One alien threw a stone at him. Hitting his shoulder, another shouted, "He's a spy! Kill him now!" Someone else yelled. But then soft footsteps broke the noise. The crowd parted, and the girl appeared. Her name was Liari, the leader's only daughter. She walked slowly, still weak, supported by two healers. Her wound was covered in glowing silk. But her face was calm. She raised one hand. The crowd went silent. "He saved me," she said. Her voice clear and strong. "I fell. I was alone," she said. "He gave me water, his own blood, and brought me back," the tribe murmured, shocked. No one had ever seen a human do such a thing. Shirkai stared at his daughter, then at Jack. His jaw tightened. "I do not trust humans," he said, "but my blood speaks truth." He turned to the guards. "Do not kill him." Jack sighed in relief. "Only for a second," Shirkai added. "He will face the trial of fire and blood." The crowd gasped again. Liari's eyes widened. "Father?" "No," she whispered. But the leader raised his hand. "If he is brave enough to save you, he must be brave enough to face our test." Jack was pulled to his feet again. "What kind of test?" he asked, but no one answered. They dragged him through a different path, toward a dark cave surrounded by statues of beasts. At the entrance, strange symbols glowed on the walls. A tall alien priest stepped forward, his face covered in a silver mask. He spoke slowly. "You enter with no weapons, no food, and no help. If you survive until sunrise, you are free. If you fail..." The priest paused. "Your bones stay in the cave." The ropes were cut, and two guards pushed Jack into the cave. The stone door closed behind him with a loud slam. Darkness swallowed him inside. The air was cold and wet. He took slow steps, hands out in front, feeling the walls. Then he heard a growl. Low, deep, and close. A pair of red eyes flashed in the dark. Something large was moving toward him. Jack grabbed a sharp rock from the ground. "If I survive this," he whispered, "I better get a thank you." Back in the village, Liari sat beside the fire. Her eyes staring at the cave entrance. She felt guilt, pain, and something else, something new. She barely knew the human, but he had risked his life for her. And now, her people were testing him like he was nothing. She stood, her legs shaking, and faced her father. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Shirkai looked into the fire. "He must prove he is not a spy," he said, "or worse, a threat we cannot see." Liari's hands clenched. "But he's a healer, not a fighter." Her father didn't reply. Far below, inside the dark cave, Jack was breathing hard, sweat running down his face. He had escaped one creature, but there were more. Strange traps, sharp vines, shifting floors. This place was built to kill. Still, he kept going. Not because he wanted to prove himself, but because in that moment when he saw Liari dying, he saw someone who needed help. And he couldn't walk away as the night grew colder. Jack moved deeper into the cave and above. The tribe waited for sunrise, wondering if the human would live, or become just another story, told in whispers. The cave was alive, not with light, not with sound, but with danger. Every step Jack took echoed into the dark. The stone beneath his feet was wet and uneven. He moved slowly, holding a sharp rock in one hand. He had no torch, no food, no guide, only the weight of survival pressing on his back. Something scratched along the wall behind him. He turned fast, heart racing, but saw nothing. His breath came out in gasps, fogging in the cold air. He whispered to himself, "One night, just survive until sunrise," but the cave whispered back. Suddenly, the ground cracked beneath his left foot. He jumped just in time, avoiding a pit of sharp spikes. The trap was old, but still deadly. Jack's hand trembled as he wiped sweat from his forehead. They really did want him dead. He moved on. More careful now, time passed, though he couldn't tell how much. There was no moon, no sun inside this place. Only the slow beat of his heart and the fear that something was always watching. Then he found the chamber. It was wide and circular, with strange blue fire burning in bowls along the walls. In the center stood a stone table with markings carved deep into its surface. Bloodstains, fresh ones, told him this place had been used recently. He didn't want to know how. Jack stepped forward. Eyes scanning the shadows, suddenly a loud growl echoed through the chamber. From behind one of the stone pillars, it came, a beast. Not just any beast, this one was huge, armored with bone plates, glowing red eyes, and long claws like knives. It charged. Jack rolled to the side, barely dodging its swipe. He grabbed a broken spear lying on the ground and stood up. The beast turned, growling louder. Jack held the weapon tight. Knees bent, ready to move. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't trained, but he was human, and humans didn't give up. The fight was quick and brutal. Jack stabbed once, missed, and got knocked to the ground. The beast lunged. But Jack rolled and thrust the spear into its side. The creature howled in pain, flailing wildly. Jack didn't stop. He used the sharp rock and struck again and again. Finally, the beast fell, its breathing slow, then silent. Jack collapsed beside it, his chest heaving. His arm was bleeding, but not broken. He stared at the firelight and whispered. Still alive, back in the village, the tribe watched the cave from afar. Priests stood around a glowing crystal, showing faint signs of movement inside. They saw traps and blood. Shirkai stood tall, silent, beside him. Liari clenched her fists. She hated this. She had been taught to be strong, to follow tradition, but this felt wrong. She turned to her father. What if he dies? Shirkai did not answer. She stepped closer. Eyes burning. He saved me, and you sent him to die. Her father looked at her for a long moment, then said, if he survives, he earns our respect, and if he doesn't? She asked, voice sharp. Then he was not strong enough, the leader said. Liari looked away, her heart heavy, in the cave. Jack pushed forward, limping now. He found a narrow path and followed it. Each step painful. He passed more traps, more carved warnings. But finally, after what felt like forever, he saw it light. A small crack above led to the outside. The stars were still out, night still deep, but he was close. He climbed slowly, using roots and rocks. Ignoring the pain, his hands bled. His body screamed to stop, but he kept going. At the top, he pulled himself out and collapsed on the grass. Fresh air hit his lungs. He laughed just a little because he had made it. The guards waiting nearby shouted in shock. They expected a broken man or a body, not this. They rushed to him, but didn't attack. They looked at each other, confused, surprised, even impressed. The news spread fast. The human had survived the trial of fire and blood. Some in the tribe cheered, others stayed silent. Jurkai stood still, then nodded once. "Bring him," he said. "He is past." Jack was carried back to the village on a stretcher. But not as a prisoner. Now he was something different. Not fully accepted, not fully trusted. But no longer a stranger either. Liara ran to him. Tears in her eyes, he smiled weakly. "Told you I'm hard to kill." She laughed softly, touching his hand. "You did what no outsider has ever done," she said. Jack looked around at the curious faces watching him. He felt the change in the air. He was not just the human who saved a girl now. He was the human who faced the trial and lived. Asterix night came quickly in the alien village. But it was not peaceful. Fires burned low. Strange drums beat slowly, and shadows moved between the crystal huts. Jack lay on a soft bed made of leaves and fur, his wounds wrapped in glowing bandages. His body hurt, but his mind was sharper than ever. He was alive. He had passed the tribe's deadly trial. But something still didn't feel right. Outside, some aliens bowed as he passed. Others turned away, some whispered in dark corners. Watching him with cold eyes, they didn't all want him here. He had gained respect, but not trust. Liari visited him often. Bringing him food, sitting by his side, her soft voice made the pain fade. She laughed more now, smiled with her eyes. Jack found comfort in her company, but even she looked worried at times. One night, Liari sat beside him by the fire, her fingers playing with a small silver charm. "There's something you need to know," she said quietly. Jack leaned closer. "What is it?" She looked around, then whispered, "Something old is waking up beneath this land." Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" She stared into the flames. "Before my people came to this valley. It was silent. No birds, no animals, no wind," she said. "The earth here is cursed." She told him stories passed down by the elders, of a hidden power buried deep under the mountains. A creature, or a force, locked away long ago. Some believed it was a god of death. Others said it was a sleeping army. But recently, the signs had returned. Strange lights underground, shaking earth, missing hunters. Jack listened carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" She looked at him, her voice firm. "Because I believe you were sent here for a reason." Jack didn't know what to say. He had come to this planet by accident, his ship damaged. His mission unclear, but now it felt like fate. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He walked quietly through the village, past sleeping guards and silent huts. The stars above were brighter here, the moons larger. But something dark pulled at him from below. He followed a path toward the sacred hill where the trial cave stood. He just wanted to think, but someone else was already there. A figure stood in the dark, speaking softly into a small crystal. Jack stepped behind a tree and listened. The voice was deep, angry. "He's a danger to us," the voice said. "He cannot stay." Jack's heart dropped. Someone wanted him dead. The figure turned. And moonlight hit his face, one of the tribe's council elders. Jack had seen him before, always watching, never smiling. Now he knew why. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Jack's arm from behind. He spun, ready to fight, but it was Liar. "What are you doing here?" she asked, breathless. "I could ask you the same," Jack replied. Pointing at the council member, her eyes widened. "Come with me." Now she pulled him into the forest, away from the village lights. They stopped by a small stream, hidden under vines. Jack told her everything, the words he heard. The council elder's face, Liari, looked afraid. "There are some in the tribe who think change is danger," she said. "They fear you because you're different." Jack looked up at the stars. "Thinking I didn't come here to lead or fight," he said. "I just wanted to survive." Liari touched his shoulder. "But now, they see you as something more." The next day, The elder acted like nothing had happened. He smiled at Jack, spoke kind words, but his eyes were cold. Jack knew the danger hadn't passed. If anything, it had grown stronger. Later that evening, Shirkai called a meeting. The tribe gathered around the great fire. Jack stood beside Liari, feeling the weight of many eyes. The leader spoke of the old warnings. Of signs beneath the ground, he looked at Jack and said, "You know what waits below, don't you?" Jack nodded. "I've seen signs, felt the pull." Shirkai stepped forward. Placing his hand on Jack's chest, "You are not one of us," he said. "But you may be the key to our survival." The fire cracked. And silence followed. Jack looked around. Some faces were hopeful, some full of fear. He realized then he wasn't just part of the tribe now. He was at the center of something far bigger. Something ancient was stirring underground. And the shadows in the tribe were growing bold. The night was quiet. But Jack knew the storm was coming, and this time, he wouldn't just fight for his life, he would fight for everyone's. The ground trembled beneath the village. It was slight. Just a gentle shake, but everyone felt it. Fires flickered, water in bowls rippled. And the animals cried out. The tribe paused. Eyes turning toward the mountains. It wasn't the first time this had happened. But tonight, it lasted longer, deeper, as if something below the surface was turning in its sleep. Jack stood on the edge of the high cliffs, looking down at the glowing valley. Liari joined him, silent for a while. Then she whispered, "It's getting stronger." Jack nodded, and closer, ever since the trial. Jack had stayed with the tribe. His wounds were healing. But trust was still a work in progress. Shirkai had allowed him to stay as a guest, but not yet a brother. The elder who had whispered in the dark still walked the village with a smile. But Jack didn't forget, and neither did Liari, that night. Jack met with the leader and the council. Shirkai pointed to an ancient map carved in stone. It showed tunnels under the mountain's old, forbidden places. "These were sealed long ago," the leader said. "But something is breaking them open." Jack leaned closer. "Let me go down there," the elders murmured in protest. "It is sacred ground." One said, "It is cursed," said another. But Shirkai raised his hand, silencing them. He looked at Jack for a long moment. "If you go," he said, "you do not go alone." Liari stepped forward before anyone else. "I will go with him," she said. Gasps filled the room. Shirkai's face turned hard. But he did not say no. Instead, he nodded once. "Take only those you trust," he said, "and take the old path soon after." Jack and Liari gathered a small group 3 warriors who believed in change. They carried light torches, weapons made of glowing bone, and a device Jack had built from broken parts of his ship. It detected movement, heat, and strange signals. As they reached the cave entrance, Jack glanced at Liari. "Ready?" he asked. She smiled slightly. "No," she said. "But let's go anyway." The path was narrow and cold. Strange marks covered the walls, claw marks. Symbols, dried blood, the deeper they went. The louder the hum became, it wasn't a sound they heard, it was something they felt in their bones. Then the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber, and there, in the center, was a broken seal, a cracked stone circle with energy pulsing around it. Beside it lay bones, armor pieces, old weapons. Something had come out. Jack's device beeped. The screen flashing red. "They're not alone down here," he said, voice low. A sudden screech echoed through the chamber. From the shadows, they came creatures of bone and fire, crawling on all fours, eyes burning with hate. The warriors raised their weapons. Liari drew her twin blades. Jack pulled out his makeshift pulse gun. The creatures attacked fast. Their claws sharp, their screams deafening. But Jack and the others held the line. Blasts of energy lit the chamber. Blades slashed through darkness. One creature leaped at Lier, but Jack tackled it mid-air, firing point-blank. Another nearly bit into a warrior's neck, but Liari sliced it clean with a glowing arc. The fight was wild, desperate, but finally, the last beast fell, crumbling to dust. Everyone stood in silence, breathing hard. The ground rumbled again, and the cracked seal pulsed brighter. Jack stepped forward, placing a sensor on the edge. "It's not over," he said. "These things weren't the real enemy, they were scouts." Liari looked at him, eyes wide. "You mean there's more?" Jack nodded. "Much more. They returned to the village before dawn, clothes torn, eyes wide with fear." The council gathered, and Jack told them everything. Shirkai listened quietly, then stood, "Prepared the defenses," he said. "The enemy below is waking." The tribe moved quickly. Barricades were raised, weapons handed out. Scouts sent to the high ridges. Jack helped build traps using both alien tools and human tech. He taught the warriors how to use his devices, how to fight smarter. Some elders still doubted him. But the people began to watch him with new eyes, not as a prisoner or a stranger, but as someone who stood beside them when it mattered. That evening, Lieri sat with Jack near the fire. She looked tired, but stronger. "You fought like one of us today," she said. Jack smiled. "Maybe I'm becoming one of you." She leaned closer. "Or maybe we're becoming something new." The fire cracked, and far in the distance, the ground shook again, longer this time, deeper. Whatever was coming would not wait much longer. The sky turned red before the sun even rose. Dark clouds gathered above the valley, swirling like a storm made of fire. The earth rumbled louder than ever, shaking trees, breaking stones, and waking every soul in the village. The enemy below was no longer waiting. It was coming. Jack stood at the front gate, armor strapped across his chest. His pulse gun charged. Beside him stood Liari, her twin blades glowing brighter than before. Behind them, the entire tribe moved like one body, silent, strong and ready. Shirkai raised his staff, his deep voice booming across the field. "Today, we fight not as old and new," he said, "not as alien and human. Today, we fight as one." Suddenly, the ground split open with a deafening roar. Flames burst from the cracks, and from them rose the enemy. Hundreds of creatures crawled out, their bodies made of bone. Smoke and rage, their eyes glowed red. Their jaws opened wide, screaming without sound. The tribe didn't wait. Arrows flew through the air. Glowing spears were thrown, and energy weapons fired bright beams into the enemy swarm. Jack led one side of the battlefield, guiding his fighters with quick signals. He used traps he had built days ago, hidden explosives, pressure spikes, heat mines. With every blast, 10 creatures fell. But more kept coming. Liari moved like lightning. Dancing through enemies with her blades, she never missed a strike. Never looked back. Jack followed her lead, firing again and again, sweat pouring from his face. He saved one warrior who had fallen, pulled another away from the fire. He fought like it was his world too. But the enemy was endless. The sky darkened fully, and a scream came from the deepest crack. Something huge was rising, something ancient. From the center pit came a creature taller than any hut. Its body was wrapped in black armor, eyes like burning suns. It walked slowly, but every step shook the earth. Shirkai faced it with his strongest warriors, but their weapons did nothing. The beast crushed them with one sweep of its arm. "No," Jack whispered. "This thing's not alive, it's a machine." He looked at his scanner, glowed red, showing weak points. He shouted to Liari, "We need to hit its core right in the chest." But the beast was moving toward the village. If it reached the center, everything would be lost. Jack ran toward the war tent, grabbing a power cell from his ship's broken engine. He connected it to his pulse gun, overcharging it until the weapon began to shake. "This could kill me," he said, smiling to himself. Or it could work. He ran through the battlefield, dodging enemies, fire, and falling debris. Liari saw him and followed, cutting a path through the chaos. Jack reached the front, raised his gun, and aimed for the glowing heart inside the monster's chest. He fired. The blast was like thunder. It hit the creature dead center, cracking its armor, sending it back with a roar. But it didn't fall. It turned to Jack, raising a massive arm to strike. Before it could, Liari leaped forward, driving both blades into its exposed chest. The creature screamed loud, long, full of pain. Light burst from its chest, cracks spreading like fire. It stumbled, then collapsed into the pit it had come from. Silence fell over the battlefield. The creatures stopped moving, turned to dust, and vanished into the wind. The fire faded, the earth cooled. It was over. Jack dropped to his knees. Exhausted, Liari knelt beside him. Blood on her arm, dirt on her face, but she smiled. "You did it," she said. "No," Jack replied. "We did." Jurkai approached, walking slowly, his armor cracked, his face bruised. He looked at Jack, then at his daughter, and nodded. "You fought with honor," he said, and without fear, he turned to the tribe. Raising his arm, "This human saved us," he said. "He is no longer a guest. He is one of us." The tribe cheered not, just in respect, but with true feeling. Even the ones who doubted him now looked at Jack with new eyes. Eyes of gratitude. Later, as the fires were put out and the wounded were treated, Jack stood on the cliff again. The stars were coming out, calm and bright. Liari stood beside him, her hand brushing his. "We've changed," she said softly. Jack smiled. "Maybe this world and I were meant to find each other, below them." The tribe began to sing, not a song of mourning, but of rebirth. A new story had begun, and Jack was now part of it. The morning after the battle was quiet. No drums, no cries, no wind. Just the sound of soft footsteps and the gentle crackle of small fires. The village had changed overnight. Smoke still rose from broken huts, and healers moved quickly between the wounded. But the fear was gone. In its place was something new: hope. Jack walked through the village slowly, nodding to warriors who now greeted him with respect. Children ran past him laughing, no longer hiding behind their mothers. The same people who once called him an outsider were now reaching out. Some offered food. Others touched his arm and said words in their language he didn't understand, but he understood the feeling. He had earned his place not by force, not by trick, but by heart. Shurkai stood at the center of the village, a fresh robe over his bruised armor, when he saw Jack. He stepped forward and removed the heavy crest from his shoulders. He handed it to Jack, not as a gift, but as a symbol. "You are no longer just a survivor," the leader said. "You are a protector of this tribe." Jack took the crest with both hands. Unsure of what to say, Liari stood beside her father, smiling, her eyes soft and full of light. Jurkai turned to the people, raising his staff. "This human came to us in silence," he said. "He brought no war, only courage. He gave no promises, only action. He came from the stars, but now he walks with us." The crowd erupted in cheers, voices rising high. Some cried, others sang. The drums began again, not for war, but for celebration. Later that day, the tribe began building a new structure near the edge of the cliffs. A house, unlike the others, made with a mix of their materials and Jack's ideas. Smooth stone base, strong crystal walls. Curved metal from his broken ship built into the frame. It wasn't just a home, it was a sign. A place for the one who came from the stars but chose to stay. Liari helped carry the first beam, her hands dusty, her smile wide. "You'll need help setting this up," she said. Teasing him, Jack laughed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm not leaving anytime soon," he said. "Besides," he added, looking at the horizon, "I kinda like it here." The tribe worked together, young and old. Even the elder who once plotted in the shadows now helped carry supplies. The battle had changed more than just the land. It had changed hearts as the sun set. Two homes stood side by side, one for Jack, the other for Liari, close enough to share warmth, far enough to show respect. It was the tribe's way of saying what they couldn't speak aloud yet. A bond had been formed deeper than words, something between friendship and something more. That night, a great feast was held. Fires burned high, music filled the air, and stories of the battle were told over roasted meats and glowing fruits. Jack sat beside Liari, listening, laughing, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Jerkai raised a glass made of stone and light. "To the man who pulled my daughter from death," he said. "To the human who became one of us." Jack stood, raising his own cup. "And to the tribe that gave me a second chance," he said. The crowd roared in approval. Later that night, as the fires died down and the stars took their place in the sky, Jack walked alone to the edge of the cliff, the same place where it all started. He looked up at the stars, the sky that once meant escape. Now it meant memory. He had come from far away, searching for something: survival, maybe purpose. He found both, and more. Liari joined him, quiet, her presence calming. She stood beside him without speaking, just watching the stars. After a while, she whispered, "You could still leave." "You know," Jack smiled. "I could," he said. "But I won't." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Why?" He turned to her. "Because I've found my place, not in the stars," he said, "but here with you, with them." She reached out and took his hand. And for the first time since he crashed on this world, Jack didn't feel lost. He felt found, below them. The tribe slept peacefully. No longer fearing what was beneath, they had faced the enemy, fought the darkness, and survived because of a human, because of Jack. And as the stars watched silently from above, a new story began, not just of war or survival, but of unity, of love, of two worlds becoming one. A new tribe was born, and Jack was its heart.